What's up, guys? We're on the road today and we're doing a vlog style review. This is the SKYSTARS Tinyfrog 75X 75mm brushless 1103. I believe there were 15 amp ESCs in here and F4 flight controller. This one is supposed to be able to run 2 to 3S, but actually it's better on 2. The 3S battery is giving it the jitters and the wobbles, so it will need a PID tune for that. If I can do it, I will share those PIDs with you guys as always. We're going to take a ride in the van. We're going to go fly this one line of sight in FPV. I just noticed that the radar has totally cleared up. This huge system has moved past, so we're good to take a drive and do some flying with this little quad. I'm going to let you know whether you should get this one or the Emax Tinyhawk. I know a lot of you guys are going to ask about this one, but this one's kind of a cheaper version of something like the BETAFPV 75X. That's really what this one's kind of going after, because the BETAFPV stuff is quite pricey, and some of you guys don't want to pay that price, so this might be the alternative to the BETAFPV 75X. Let's go ahead and do some flying with this little guy. I think you're going to be impressed for what it is for the price. Here we go. Alright guys, we're going to do some line of sight flight test real quick. After that we'll do some FPV and then we'll jump back to the bench and do a little bit of bench talk about the Tinyfrog 75X. Here we go. Let's fire it up on the stock battery and see how it does line of sight. So I'm in stability mode right now. It's really windy today, so I only flew one battery at this spot because it's so crazy windy. So now I'm in acro. This is that 2S battery. By the way, don't charge this at 5C. It says on the battery you can do a fast charge of like 5C on this quad or this little battery, but no way, dude. Do not do that. You might puff it and have it explode on your bench. Charge this little battery safely at the max of like 1C and you'll get a much longer lasting battery, but looks pretty stable. So far it's fairly durable because I already crashed it once into my van, and yeah, no problem with the frame durability wise. Fly it in the van. I like the LEDs on the underneath the canopy. It's kind of cool. Pretty stable even in acro in the van, but once it gets outside to a little bit of wind, the perfect day to fly this quad would obviously be like, you know, let's try some flips there. Nice. Be a no wind day or under 10 miles an hour. Right now I probably have like 12 to 13 mile an hour wind, and I did fly it way up top for you guys just to show you how it does way up there, and it actually did pretty good. It's got 1103 motors on here, so for this weight to power, it's actually a pretty good matchup. Even on 2S, I feel like the punch out was actually pretty good, and I'll show you that punch out in my FPV test. So I'm gonna fly this spot like one time for you guys, and then we're gonna go to another spot that has a little better shadow, wind shadow, for a little better flying. Let's go ahead and bring it back to the bench now in the van and land it, and we'll do some FPV. Here we go. Perfect landing, perfect landing. All right, let's do it. Alright guys, welcome back from the flight test. What do you guys think about that flying? It was doing pretty good even though we had like a 13 to 14 mile an hour wind. I swear it was cranking. This system is still kind of moving through out there. So what is this quad all about? Well, if you get it around the $100 price point without the receiver, if you have one laying around, it's a pretty good value for around $100. It has TBS smart audio on this baby, and it does say that it cranks up to 200 milliwatt on the back of the box. 200 milliwatt, 25 to 200 milliwatt VTX, so I believe 40 channels. And what's also cool about this one, you notice that the camera actually looked pretty decent. That's because it's the Caddx EOS2 camera, and yeah, that's a pretty good camera. I think that the battery it comes with is okay. It's not the greatest battery in the world. The battery that I'm going to recommend for this one is the G&B. I believe the 2S450 milliamp would get you about 4.5 minutes flight time. So with the 1103 motors on there, that's going to give you a nice punch out. I thought that the punch out on this was actually pretty good for power to weight ratio. It has a great power to weight ratio. The frame, I believe it is the Darlin, or it might be actually be the polycarbonate frame. Very similar to a lot of other frames out there right now. But F405 flight controller is controlling it pretty well. It was fighting the wind quite a bit, so that little bit of tumble that you saw, kind of slight jitter when I was going up against the wind, that's because the flight controller is overreacting. So one thing to think about when you're flying these quads with prop guards, you're going to get some phenomena like that because the flight controller is overreacting to the external forces. But check this little guy out. Isn't this a cool looking little quad? When it first came out on the Banggood website, I thought, man, that's pretty neat looking little quad. I like that kind of frog idea. They're bringing this back. I've seen it before, and this way just kind of looks a little neater. Whoop season is still going on. My God, it's April now, and we're still talking about whoops. Whoop season is just extended. It does come with these little Gemfan. I believe these were Gemfan props, the 1635 props. Yeah, and these are the newer ones too. They give you an extra set in there. It's got that little monkey on there. And these are the 1.5 millimeter hole size props. So if you order props, make sure that you order the 1.5 millimeter hole. They won't fit if you get the 1 millimeter versions. These are quad props also. And while this will give you a great punch out, my preferred prop would be the 1636 3-bladed prop. The tri-blade prop is just going to give you a little smoother flying quad and probably less jello in your camera if you're having issues with 3S. So prop down one prop, and I think you'll get a much better result with this quad. Now the TBS Smart Audio did work on here quite well. If you do your left stick to the left and your right stick up, it will put you into the menus and it will let you change it up to 200 milliwatt. I cranked mine all the way up. And I also did some range testing for you guys. I got way out there with this receiver, and this is a little tiny micro receiver underneath this strap, and I cut the two sidewalls off because I don't like being constricted to that minimal battery size. I want to be able to run my wider batteries, so if you run a strap from front to back just like that, you can do that. These little mini iFlight straps are awesome. I'll try to put a link down below for those. Also, it comes with a little bit of information about what's on the flight controller. We have Betaflight 3.5.0 on there. It does say that RSSI is on channel, actually aux 16, so if you want to get your RSSI working. And the AC900 receiver that's on here, it's a micro receiver. It's working on Futaba or FrSky D16 non-EU mode. So non-EU means it's going to give us a little more range than the EU version. And the good thing is that I saw this huge antenna wire on here. It actually did go way out there without losing signal, way above the evergreen trees and back to my van. So I had a lot of fun with that, and I was cranking 200 milliwatt, which seemed to have a decent penetration. There was a little bit of static in it, but that's to be expected with so much trees in the way. So they are also push-on props. You don't need any bolts on these. And this thing came back in one piece, which is great. It also has plug-and-play motors on the bottom, so if you burn out a motor, you can just unplug this one and put a new one in there. 4-bolt bottom configuration as well. Plenty of tilt in the camera, up to about 35 degrees and down to straight ahead if you want. If you lower the camera angle, you can fly this incredibly slow and through really tiny gaps if you go a little slower, little lower camera angle. Kind of cool. One difference about this quad versus some of the other quads out there is that This one does fly better than some of the HD Cinewhoops out there, mainly because that's what this one's for. It doesn't have the extra addition of weight like the 85X has with the larger motors and the Caddx Turtle V2. So Caddx Turtle V2 is quite heavy, and this one's lightened up a lot by not having any HD gear on here. And now let's talk battery and flight time here. The battery that came with it, this is a 2S 300 milliamp, and this is crazy. On here it says, actually looks like 5C fast charge rate. I would not charge this at 5C on your charger. If you do that with a little 2S 300 milliamp, you're likely to have it swell and burst on your charger. Anyone who's charging this at 5C is completely crazy in my opinion. I think the max that you should probably charge this at a safe level would be 1 at the most, 1.0 on your charger. Maybe even breaking it down to 0.5 to be safe inside your house. Now on this little battery I was getting close to 3 minutes flight time on these 1103 motors, and they look like Spedix branded motors, because they are the low profile motor. It looks just like some of the Spedix motors I've seen on other quads, and it says SKYSTARS on one side and 11,000 kV, so pretty high kV. This is the battery that I'm going to recommend. This is the 2S GNB 300. This will get you just about 3.5 minutes, and this one had way better performance and punch out than the stock battery that came with it. My preferred battery for longer flight times is going to be the Tattoo 2S 450, and that was getting me in upwards of 4 minutes and 30 seconds, which is absolutely awesome. And I honestly don't think that this made that much of a difference in the power to weight for the punch out, because the 1103s, I've flown it on my channel before. I love 1103s mainly because they don't suck as much battery down in some of like 1104 to 1105 to 1106 motors do. 1103s seem to be a sweet spot for this particular weight and size for your power to weight ratio. You get a nice punch out and a longer flight time with 1103s. So now I'm just going to go ahead and turn on the scale here for you guys, zero that out. Let's put the quad on there with my little battery strap and see what we get. 42.5 grams there, and I'm going to try to somehow get all of this on there with the stock battery. Just balance that on there. Let's see what we get. 60.5, so way under that 250 gram mark. And some of my favorite batteries in the universe, the GNB 2S 300, 64 on the dot. And let's weigh the 2S 450 from Tattoo. Let's see what we get there. Little balancing act here. And we're up to 71.8 grams. Not too bad, SKYSTARS. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this one a star rating. I'm going to give it a star rating of 4.2 stars out of 5. I think that it does feel fairly cheap in my hands. It looks cheaper than something as fancy as like your 85X or the 75X from BETAFPV, but I gotta say that this is probably a little bit better quality than some of the BETAFPV quads that I've flown in the past 3 to 4 months, because BETAFPV has had some QC issues. Quality control is huge, and SKYSTARS has been pretty reliable for me. You know, I know a lot of people out there, other reviewers have gave this one some really mixed reviews, but you know what? This guy has smart audio on it. It has a nice punch out, a long flight time on a 450. It feels pretty solid in my hand, and it did not break on my flight test. I didn't break any of the prop guard struts in here. I modded it with my strap so I can fly bigger batteries. And even though it was a little bit windy today, this quad powered through the wind and even did some mild freestyle. So I think this one is a little bit better than some of the other reviewers are saying, in my opinion. I could probably even rate this one an upwards of like 4.5 stars because I had no problems with it. The dipole in the back is great. You could probably replace it as an IPEX connector if you want to add like some kind of little Big Mac antenna on there from Furious FPV. But I think for around the $100 price point, it's actually pretty good value. It also comes with this little case that is kind of perfect for it. It's got some spots for extra batteries in here if you want to slide those in. I would order a handful of these batteries. They're pretty cheap to fly. I'll put some links down below for those, and you guys can pick some of those up. But I don't think it's quite as bad as some of the other reviewers said. I actually think it's a pretty decent quad, especially with how far we've come with micro brushless in the last year. It's crazy how fast. Now we're spoiled with smart audio and all these different features that we're getting added to these quads all the time. And it has a D-Shot beeper that actually works. So you don't have to upgrade these ESCs. They're ready to go out of the box. So I think it's a pretty decent value and a safe bet for your $100 purchase. So I'm going to put the link down below. I'll try to get you guys a discount coupon code down below. Look for Toyho, Toyho for the discount code. But thanks again for watching my reviews, guys. Today in the van, I'm Justin Davis. Take care, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Please do subscribe. Peace.